Hi folks, this is Meredith from the Papery Craftery, and today we're doing another video in my Back to Basics series. We're going to be making eccentric coils. So you're going to grab whatever quilling paper you like. I'm going to be using the light blue for some examples, but I'm going to be making some flowers later on, so I have some other colors over there. I have my needle tool, I have my Elmer's glue all in my needle nose glue bottle. I have a little brush here that might come in handy. And then there's a few ways that you can make these coils, and I'm going to demonstrate 3 different ways. So I have a cork board covered in parchment with some straight pins. I also have this shape template here that's made for quilling. I'm going to be showing how to make them with that. And then I also have some tweezers here. I have a standard pair, and then I actually have this reverse tweezers that I don't really like for most quilling, but they're really useful in making the eccentric coils. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is just make these eccentric coils. Now, the reason they're called eccentric is because the middle of the coil is a little off center. It's a little quirky. It's pushed to the side, but they're really easy to make. So you're going to start off with whatever length and width of quilling paper you like. I'm just using the 1/8 inch for demonstration here. The size of the strip doesn't matter. This is about 8 inches. Again, this is just practice here. You're going to roll it up on your needle tool. I would say use a needle tool because you want that perfect circle opening instead of the crimp in the middle. You're going to take it off your tool. You're going to glue down the end. So at this point, we've just made a loose coil, very standard. You make these all the time. The difference with an eccentric coil is that you're going to take your center and push it all the way to one side. Pretty much like I'm doing here, but you need it to stay. I like to push all of mine towards the end where I have just glued that tail down. I think it hides the little seam very nicely. That's an aside. You can push yours to whatever angle you want. The first way I'm going to show is on my cork board. I have it covered with parchment here, and you can see that I'm using my glue in my needle nose bottle to put a tiny bit going in a line from my center of my coil all the way to the end. I brushed off my excess, then I'm using 1 pin on the outside and 1 pin right in the center coil and pushing that all the way to the side, brushing away any excess glue. So now when this glue dries, those center coils are going to stay all the way to the side. So that is an eccentric coil. That is one way to do it. Another option is to make your loose coil just like we did last time, but instead of letting it open up in your hands and gluing it, we're going to be placing it in one of the circles on this template board, or you can see it called a quilling shape board. And what it is just a cork board with a little bit of plastic on top in different shapes. This one happens to be all circles. It has a little bit of a lip there, and that's going to allow the coil to sit inside and keep this shape as it sort of relaxes. You can sneak a little bit of glue in the end there to get that tail to set. And then you're going to do the same thing that you did last time, which is apply a little line of glue from the center directly out to one side. Brush away as much as you can. You need the tiniest amount of glue in here. I didn't explain this in the last one, but what that glue is doing is going in between every layer of paper and keeping them together. And then, because the outside is held by the board, you just need 1 pin this time. Same thing, put it in the center, pull it to the side, and it will stay. Now, the last option here is going to be using tweezers. So same idea as the first 2, roll it all the way to the end. Let it open up in your hands, or you can always use a surface for this if you'd like to just put yours down on a smooth surface. That will help it open up nicely as well. We are back to gluing the tail, so get that together. And sometimes you just need to rub it a little bit to get it nice and smooth. Still adding the glue, because remember, that's what's going to keep the layers of our coil where we want them. And then you're going to take your brush and keep brushing that little bit away because you really just need the tiniest bit of glue. And then these tweezers are going to act like what the pins were doing before. So we're going to put one point of the tweezers in the center, and then the other end is going to be on the outside, and that's going to hold your coil in place. Now the thing about these reverse tweezers is that they sort of are just a clamp, and you don't have to hold on to them. You can put them down. As the glue dries, that will keep your coil in place. So this is good if you only need to make like one or two, but if you need to make a whole bunch, that might not be the most efficient way to make your coils. So as it dries, you can see I can take it off the board, I take it out of my tool, and the shape is set. So you can obviously leave them that shape, and you can make some things out of them, right? What can you do with these shapes? You can use them in how you would do any other coils, they just give it a different look. You can also make them different sizes. So here we have a little piece of this deep yellow paper. It's about 4 inches long. I'm going to do the same thing. You're going to roll it all the way to the end. And then you're going to make your eccentric coil the same way. Any of the 3 options that I showed. The only thing about the little ones is that they can be a little bit messier because now we're running out of space to hold them. And you're going to apply your glue. It might get on your fingers, but it all works the same. And it also might look like you can't see any of the layers of paper, but when you move them to the side and you open up your center, you can actually really start to see the different layers of paper. So I'm just going to use the tweezers here because I'm just making one for this little example. And then once we let that dry, we're going to make a little tiny, super basic flower. So here I have 7 of the same little shape. And then we're just going to turn this into the really, like I said, the simplest flower you can really make here. I have a quadruple thick strip of a sage green paper. And I'm going to use a couple of pins just on either side to keep that in shape and standing straight up. And then it's just a matter of putting my little tiny eccentric coils around. That's even just a flower bud right there. We could have just left it as is, but we're going to add a few more. To put a pin right in the center of that one just to keep it together. And then we're just going to glue our little petals of our flower around the center. And then before you know it, you have a whole little flower bud with all the centers of the little coils facing inward. Can anybody notice that one of those petals is a different color yellow? I didn't realize that while I was making them. I don't know how that happened, but here is some finished product. And also something to note about the eccentric coil is that there will be excess glue on the back. That is just part of the process. So if you are concerned about that, just make sure you know which way your coils are going to be facing and use them in that direction. Now, something else to note, you can turn your eccentric coils into other shapes. And it can have the same idea where all of the layers of your strip are pushed to one side and gives it a completely different look. So we're going to be using this watermelon colored paper strips to make a different flower in different shapes. These strips, I'm using the entire thing, so this is about 18 inches. And in addition to making the eccentric coil shape out of this, I'm going to be doing something totally different here, which is stretching it back out again right after I roll it. It's still on the needle tool. Then taking my tool out and re-rolling it by hand. And the reason I'm doing that is, one, this is completely optional. You do not have to do this part. You can make your eccentric coil the way we were making it, and then fast forward a couple seconds until we get to the part where we're turning it into a different shape. But just to add a little bit more dimension to this flower, I'm doing this so that the center of this coil is even bigger. So let's picture it was made on a much bigger needle tool or a dowel or something. You can do that as well instead of stretching it out and re-rolling it by hand. That will give you the bigger look in the center. This is just another technique. So as you can see here, as I'm re-rolling it by hand, because it has that memory of being coiled, it's rolling right back up. But because I stretched out the center a little bit, the eye of this coil is going to stay a little bit bigger. Like I said, you don't have to do this part. This is just to add a little bit something extra to this video and this flower. So here we go. I have it recoiled, and you can see the center is much larger than if it had just been right off the needle tool. Gonna let it open back up and relax a little bit. And I'm just turning it over because I'm gonna be gluing it on that side. Gluing it down the tail, just a little bit of glue. And then let's get that sealed up. Sometimes, like I said before, it just needs a little bit of help to stay nice and smooth. Now, like I said, we're going to be turning this shape into an eccentric coil and then another shape on top of that. So we have our center. We're going to pull it to one side. You can use the tweezers. You can use the board to get this set first before you make the shape. But I'm just holding it with my hand and turning it into a teardrop. But now we want that shape to stay, right? We want all the parts of that coil to end up on the bottom still. So holding it by the top, I can go ahead and add my glue. I can brush that out, and then I can use my pins to get that to stay, and then it'll stay both in the teardrop shape, but with the eccentric coil opening pushed to one side, just like the other coils that we were making in the beginning of the video. You could also make the eccentric coil first, glue all your strips to the side, and then make your teardrop shape on the side after. It'll work either way. And you can see there that I have another one that has already been made. But now you're wondering, why the heck did we stretch out that center to begin with? Now we have a big hole in the middle of our teardrop. What I'm actually going to be doing is just taking a little bit of a different colored pink paper, a lighter pink, about 3 inches or so. Depends on the size of the center of your little teardrop that we made right there. I'm just making a tight coil, so that is rolling it up on my tool, leaving it on my tool, gluing the end so that it all stays together. It hasn't been opened up or relaxed at all. There's no layers of paper. And then we're going to glue that right in that larger eye of our teardrop. So let me just take the one that's already been sitting there for a little bit, so all that glue is dry. Just going to put a little bit of glue right in the opening there. You don't need a lot at all. And then I use my needle tool, place it in the center, just kind of slide that shape right off. And that is how you can get a little bit of an accent color inside your little teardrop there. And we're going to be making another little flower with all these shapes, but it wasn't just that first teardrop that we're going to be using. You're going to need another 6 to 8 inches of that same paper. We're going to be making little mini teardrops now, but I just want to make sure that you have the gist for that. So we're going to make another coil, glue down the end just like before, get that all sealed up. For these, we're not going to be opening them up and filling them with another color. So you can make it however you wish with any of the 3 techniques we've seen before. But I will say that for the little tiny coils here, because they can be a little messy, the tweezers can be probably the easiest and the most helpful. So this time we're going to get our coils pushed to the side like we did earlier. But then, after we brush away any excess glue, we're going to jump right into making the teardrop while it's still on the tweezers. Just like that. We're just going to pinch the end. And that's going to be our little tiny teardrops as well. And then for our last part of this flower, we're going to be making our leaves. So I have this leaf green paper here. It's about maybe a little bit less than 10 inches or so of paper. I'm going to roll it all the way up just like we were making all the rest of our eccentric coils. And this time we're going to be turning it into more of an oval shape. So I have my coil here, let it open up a little bit in my hands, and then glue down the end here. So this part you should have down pretty well, I think by now. We've made this a few times. So now we're going to jump right into our coil by holding everything to one side with our hands and then pushing top and bottom, and that's how we're going to get our oval shape. Apply a little bit of glue. I'm using our tweezers to hold our coils to the side. And just like with the teardrops, you can do it in either way. You can move your coils to one side, get that to dry, and then push it into your oval shape, or you can do the oval shape first and then push everything to the side. As long as you get all of your layers in your center pushed to one side of your shape, you're going to have the right idea for the eccentric coils. So at this point, we have put our larger teardrops, I have 3 of them kind of stacked up there, and the little teardrops behind. And then I have 4 of my ovals on either side of my stem. It sort of looks like a little tulip. So we've used our eccentric coils a few different ways today. We've made them pretty standard, and then we have used a few different ways to turn them into some little flowers. Some very folk art looking these flowers today. It's just the way it turned out, but I think they're kind of cute. Now, if you need more practice with your eccentric coils or any of your other quilling paper shapes, I have a brand new product up on my Buy Me a Coffee page. It is a quilling paper worksheet packet. There's 4 different pages filled with all of your quilling paper shapes and spirals and swirls and scrolls of all different shapes, where you can see the example and then make your own, compare and contrast, and see what you might need a little bit more work or practice on, just to get a little bit more comfortable with some of your more common quilling shapes and some of the ones you don't use very often as well. You can find that under my extras page of my Buy Me a Coffee page. I have another video there that is exclusive just to that page, and a few other worksheets that you can find there as well. And I am putting up new products all the time, so you might want to check that out. It's a great way to support the channel and keep it growing and allow me to make new videos all the time. But in the meantime, if you have any questions about the eccentric coils or the flowers that we made out of those shapes today, please leave those in the comment section and I will answer as soon as I can. Don't forget to look in the description box for links to all the supplies that I used in the video today, and that's where you'll also find the link to that Buy Me a Coffee page, where you can pick up your own copy of those worksheets or any of the other extras as well. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you can be around for the next video, and I'll see you then. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.